What? Bang!
Pro Wrestling Podcast. Just when they think they got the answers, I change the question.
Rep screws rep.
Yeah.
Woo!
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Did he do it?
Too hot to handle and too cold to hold. And I am Macho King Savage.
Shut your mouth, you thong-wearing fatty. I said WWE stands for. It's me, Austin. I will never retire.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. Are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling game? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline PLEs, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shout-outs like my good buddy John down in Texas, John, always love giving you that shout-out, then check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Don't forget our loyalty rewards program. I'm trying to get that out of my mouth today. It is for the $15 a month contributors. You get to co-host a live episode with myself, and our $7.50 a month contributors, you get entered into a drawing to also co-host a live episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, something you want us to touch on in the future episode, drop us a line at the Pro Wrestling Sound-Off line 267-642-1160, and we will get to those in a future episode. This episode, we are going to be reacting to some things, talking about some things, the news of the day, some good, some bad, some downright sad, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately, in the world of professional wrestling on May 11th. So let's start off on a high note, right? Let's go into major updates on contract status of Willow Nightingale, the former TBS champion in AEW, apparently is a free agent very, very soon. Now, the reality is AEW would love to keep her services. She is an integral part of the women's division there. She's done so much and has so much potential to do even more. She had a great series of matches with Mercedes Moné. This is something that could really be a big deal if they were to let her get away, because WWE, I'm sure, would swoop in and snatch her up as well. We don't want to see that happen. No offense to WWE, but we need to see great competition between these companies, and AEW needs to start doing whatever they need to do to retain some of their talent. Already have lost people. They need to keep some more. You probably are going to see Mariah May go to WWE in a few months. You can't lose another one, especially when we're not seeing a bountiful return on letting these people walk by other people coming in the door. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure we probably have a shot at seeing a Cora Jade or a Dakota Kai or people like that showing up in AEW at some point. Shayna Baszler makes a ton of sense with her connections to Marina Shafir, but you don't want to keep letting essentially your homegrown talent leave. And let's be honest, Nightingale never getting the exposure she has had with AEW in her previous dalliances in different companies around the United States and in the Indies. So this is something where they have really given her a platform. Hopefully they pay her in a way that will keep her in the company. But apparently October is when she could be done with AEW unless they come up with something, a good contract to keep her in the company. Have to wait and see how that plays out. In terms of other female talent, big word coming out today, according to Wrestling Inc., Io Sky is viewed by the higher-ups in the company as the breakaway star of 2025. everything that they've done. And the Wrestling Observer newsletter also cites the exact same thing. They say the quote that's on there says there's a new sheriff in town who's considered a breakaway star, not only in the women's division, but on the overall roster. It's not one of the 3 remaining horsewomen, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, or Bayley. It's the genius of the Sky and current women's world champion, Io Sky. What an incredible way to recognize her unique talents. She's been, I think going into WrestleMania, she was the underdog in a lot of people's eyes. No one really thought she was going to walk out as champion. I think most betting people thought it was going to be Bianca Belair, and she walked away with all the flowers, and it was a beautiful experience, a beautiful moment, and her stock just continues to rise. She's got the sky is the limit for her, so we'll have to keep our eyes on that and see where that goes in the near future. Moving on, following up the pay-per-view, and I'm going to get into the pay-per-view in just a minute, but after the pay-per-view, I guess I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Maybe I should do that. Let's cover the main event of the show first, just so we can get to the other piece of news before we cover the rest of the show. John Cena retaining the WWE Championship over Randy Orton. Questionable ending to the match. The finish where you have R-Truth come out and stop Randy from punting John Cena. Leading to John Cena being able to pick up the win over Randy Orton. Not a fan of the end of the match, but then again, I think WWE is purposely booking this so that Cena looks weak, and we keep coming back for more, waiting for somebody to take him down. And look, I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't overly impressed with the match as a whole. I thought it created more issues that we already have started to see, where WWE's trying so hard to make this John Cena heel turn thing work, but when the guy leaves the ring at the end of the match and he's already getting emotional because he knows this is it. As much as he's trying to play a character, it's getting to him a little bit because it really is the end. And when you're an athlete, you don't ever really want to hang up the tights or the boots or whatever, but he feels he's in the position now where he needs to, and that's got to be emotional for the guy. You factor into that the fact that after the show, during the media scrum, so to speak, he did interrupt Triple H, and he took the mic, and he was about to talk. He was talking about, he was apologizing essentially for the way he's treated the media in the past, only for R-Truth to come out, show his support to him again, and then he followed it up with a statement, something like, even if people think you're no talent and you can't wrestle, or something to that effect. He stood up, he threatened Truth, told him he needed to walk away and not say anything else. When Truth went to basically clarify his statement, he grabbed him and gave him attitude adjustment through a table. The word is that this is going to set up R-Truth versus John Cena at Saturday night's main event in 2 weeks. Now look, if this was 10 years ago and you put R-Truth in the ring with John Cena, I have no problem with it. None whatsoever, to be perfectly honest with you. I think at one point R-Truth could have won a major world championship. He did it in TNA and was taken very seriously. I understand he's a comedic character for most of his time in WWE, but it's not the only thing he could do, and anybody could have lightning strike. When it comes to John Cena, if this was not championship number 17, it would actually be kind of interesting. You could pull a swerve and shock the world, and almost like a Jinder Mahal moment, but that's not going to happen here. We all know that. John Cena is going to retain his championship over R-Truth, but I do think that the match itself will open the doorway for somebody else to present themselves as his main challenger heading into SummerSlam season. And the reality of the situation is, with him only having limited dates, I'm kind of surprised they're going to, I don't want to say waste one on R-Truth, with so many dream matches on the horizon. But you got to realize that he's in the 20s now, a number of appearances left after this pay-per-view, this past Friday night SmackDown, and Saturday night's main event. He doesn't have an unlimited number of dates left with WWE. So if you think about it, with the number of talents you want to see him wrestle, I'm speaking for myself. You tell me if you feel differently in the comments below, but like, in all seriousness, you still want to see him face CM Punk, a rematch with Cody, a Drew McIntyre, a Seth Rollins. Like, you know what I mean? There's certain guys you want to see. You would love to see another Roman Reigns. You'd love to see a Samoan Werewolf. You know what I mean? There's certain guys you just love to see him get in the ring with. Heck, I'd like to see him face LA Knight or Damian Priest or something of that nature. If we take one of the few appearances, so let's just say there's 5 guys, okay? 5 guys you want him to work with. And each one of those is going to require an in-ring segment. That's 10 appearances for those 5 if he only did one in-ring segment. Which means you're asking each one of them to carry the feuds if you don't have him for more. If you have him do 2 segments, now you're up to 15 appearances just for those 5 matches. And we're only in May. We got to stretch this all the way out to December. The last match on his farewell tour was announced the other day. I believe it's going to be in Massachusetts. But definitely interesting stuff coming out of the pay-per-view and the way they're booking this. And like I said, I have no problem with him wrestling R-Truth. I'm concerned about the number of dates he has left. And what if we get to the end of the year? Think how crazy it would be if he hyped this up all year that he was leaving, sold all this merchandise, and the big swerve being the master heel is that he's not leaving at the end of the year and he comes back for Mania next year and loses the championship back to Cody next Mania. I did hear somebody hypothesize that. How crazy would that be? So, that being said, let's get into the rest of the pay-per-view. The Jacob Fatu, Damian Priest, LA Knight, Drew McIntyre Fatal 4-Way, in my opinion, one of the most entertaining matches of the night. Now, the snap reactions to that is, one, very concerned about Drew McIntyre. If you saw the South of Heaven spot off of the elevated ramp through tables, it looked like his head cleared the table and bounced hard off the floor. People rushed to his side to check on him. It sounds like all these news outlets reporting that he is being checked for an injury, but we've had no update as of right now as to how serious his injury is. Beyond that injury point, though, the amazing moment of the night for me, because I'm a fan already, is the appearance of Jeff Cobb. It complicates the storyline for the Bloodline, because what happens now? Bloodline 2.0, Solo looked like he's the one who brought in Jeff Cobb, whereas Jacob Fatu clearly did not look happy about it. He is usually more aligned with Tama Tonga, who's out injured right now. Tonga Loa going to be coming back at some point. Hukuleo has to come out at some point, so maybe that's why we did this. Jeff Cobb aligns with Solo, Hikuleo aligns with Solo, and then you have 3-on-3, and it's Bloodline 2.0 versus Bloodline 3.0 with a babyface Samoan werewolf. If that's even something I can dream about. Like, how awesome would that be? Jacob Fatu is a good guy. I can't even imagine that. But at the end of the day, the appearance by Jeff Cobb attacking LA Knight, retaining the championship for Jacob Fatu, I was not surprised. That was my prediction ahead of time on my Wrestle League. Shout out to my guys over at Wrestle Talk News and Wrestle Talk Podcast. If you have not yet, jump into Wrestle League. It runs quarterly, where you make predictions on every major show, AEW and WWE related, sometimes TNA. You've kind of missed the first show, but that's okay. Jump in anyways and follow it. Every quarter it restarts. And great stuff. I had predicted that. I actually predicted the entire card correctly except for one match that I think everybody probably predicted wrong. But we'll get to that in a minute. But definitely check that out. WrestleTalk.com or WrestleTalk News, WrestleTalk Podcast. On any of their social media channels, check out their Wrestle League. Very cool stuff. So, after Jacob Fatu match is over, we get Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. I had predicted ahead of time that Becky Lynch was going to win this. I didn't see a reason to keep the championship on Lyra. She's beaten Becky in the past, and that was kind of the talking point in this. This would be where Becky finally gets her comeback against Lyra and takes her down in some nefarious way so she can win the championship. That is actually not what happened. Vegas lied to me, people. Vegas said it was overwhelming. It was going to be Becky Lynch, and it turns out Lyra Valkyria walks away retaining her championship by pinfall clean. Becky Lynch loses her mind afterwards and puts her into Disarmor. People have to break it up. I think it sets up an injury angle, which I don't like. I'd rather she just won the championship and not let go of it if you're going to do an injury angle. But whatever, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Match 3 of the night, Dominic Mysterio defending his Intercontinental Championship against Penta. What I love about the match, Penta got to display a lot of his athleticism. I love that Dom has turned into a really competent performer, somebody I enjoy seeing perform in the ring. At the same time, getting really tired of this almost lackluster, boring booking of the Judgment Day interference. I don't need any of that anymore. The Finn Balor stuff was so repetitive, it's starting to drive me nuts. The referee throwing everybody out again, just like they did on Raw. And this is starting to become a point of contention with fans with Triple H's booking. Like, you gotta stop doing stuff that's so repetitive or almost like you're using a blueprint for all your matches. It's a little ridiculous at this point. But the ending of the match, seeing El Americano Grande, or whatever, coming out, and El Grande Americano delivering a headbutt to Penta with his loaded mask, leading to Dominic Mysterio getting a win. Fine with the win. I don't think this is when we see the championship change hands. I'm not sure when we do. But I think it has to wait until after Finn and AJ wrestle this week. I think it should lead to a Finn-Dom feud at some point. Where, how crazy would it be if Finn took back the Judgment Day and booted Dom, and Dom became the babyface, Dad having to come help him out? I don't know. It's something I would definitely be interested in seeing if it was possible. And then we move on to a match that I really was surprised by, and I don't mean in a good way. And I guess that's not even fair. I guess there's a little bit of happiness to it and a little bit of frustration. Gunther versus Pat McAfee was mind-boggling to me. I thought it should have been an absolute squash match. Gunther comes out, destroys Pat McAfee in a matter of minutes. Maybe you do what all the tabloids and rag sheets were saying, where after he destroys him, he puts him in some kind of choke, and you cue Goldberg's music, and he comes out and gets involved setting something up for the summer. That is not what we got. We did not get a squash match. We had Pat McAfee take the best that Gunther had to offer and still keep coming. And take some more, and keep coming, and lock in holds, and hit moves, and come back from everything. Man, there's pictures online today of the before and after of his chest from getting chopped by Gunther, and he was still standing at the end of the match. Now, look, I'll give you a little personal reflection here. When I was working my second match, when I wrestled at Eisenhower's Norristown Throwdown 2 last year, I was in the ring with my opponent, and my opponent basically... I had him in a submission hold, and another guy ran out of the back and attacked me. Slim Whiskey attacked me, and he pummels the crap out of me. And after the match, I'm thinking I need to get up and sell that I'm mad at Slim Whiskey. When I got to the back, the agent for the match is like, "What were you doing? You needed to stay down and sell this more." By popping back up and being ready to go again so fast, you take away all the effect of the beatdown that you just went through. And I didn't understand it at the time, because I thought that's exactly what they wanted me to do, was to be like angry with him. They didn't. They wanted me to be left laying. And unfortunately, I didn't do that, and I had to learn from that. When I look at this, it's almost the same thing. You just got chopped to death and beaten down and power bombed and everything else by Gunther. And within literally 30 seconds after the video replay, Pat McAfee, who before the replay was laying on his back with Michael Cole standing over him trying to resuscitate the guy, you come back from the replay and he's standing up face to face with Gunther, who then essentially bows to him and shows him respect and leaves the ring. And I don't get it. You don't need to make Pat look strong. You need to make Gunther look strong. You need to keep Gunther strong, because why would we buy into a Gunther-Goldberg match if he has a tough time beating Pat McAfee, for God's sake? So I didn't understand the booking at all. Look, I love seeing Pat wrestle. I wish Pat would give up the commentating for now, wrestle for a few years, and go back to commentating when he's too old. But, unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But they did make Pat look really super strong. Good for him. The match was not disappointing in terms of a wrestling match. Could have been better, could have been worse. It wasn't the best match in the world, but by far wasn't the worst either. Better than most Goldberg matches. But at the end of the day, though, it's still Pat McAfee. If Pat wants that role, go be a wrestler and have that role. But if you're going to be a part-time guy who only wrestles once a year or once every 2 years, and you're going to go in the ring and face off against one of the biggest stars in the company, who just only a month ago was the world heavyweight champion in a big marquee match opening WrestleMania against Jey Uso, how am I supposed to buy into this guy if he's having that much trouble with Pat McAfee? Maybe I'm being unfair. That's just the way I feel about it. I think it was just a bad idea. And of course, as we said earlier, that his show closed with the John Cena win, retaining his championship over Randy Orton. Look, we all knew that the two had to have one more match. Some people are upset that it was so early in the year tour, because we don't really have time for a rematch. Not if we're going to keep, trying to keep John moving forward with facing different people on his retirement tour. I would have loved to have seen this at the end of the year. I would have loved to have seen Randy Orton be the guy who took the championship from Cena at the end. Instead, I don't think that's what we're going to see. I'm actually starting to believe what I said earlier this year when Cena first turned heel. They may do an angle where he runs this thing all the way out till the end of the year, vacates the championship, and they fill that vacancy at the Royal Rumble next year. I hate that idea. I love it and hate it. I love it because it's interesting for the Royal Rumble, and it makes it so you don't have to worry about people complaining that the winner of the Rumble doesn't main event Mania. Obviously, a world champion usually does, so maybe that's a way you get around that snafu situation. But at the same time, I don't want John Cena to fulfill that prophecy of leaving with the championship thing and acting like he's the last real champion. Not to mention, I've said this on the podcast before, there have been other times where the title's been vacated and people have left or whatever. It has never meant that somebody was not still a legitimate champion because the other guy didn't get beat for it or whatever. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. The last thing we have to talk about tonight, and I said we had some good, some bad, some in between. We've done the good, we've done the in between. Let's go with the bad news. It was announced earlier today that ECW legend, icon in the sport, and someone who, quite frankly, I'm really upset about because I had reached out to about possibly being a return to my interview series and doing an interview with Sabu through Facebook and Twitter. We were exchanging some messages recently, and he was thinking about doing an interview for me. And unfortunately, I did not get that opportunity because Sabu has sadly passed away today at the age of 60. Sabu, for anybody who is not old enough to have been around when ECW was in its prime, that company would have never been successful without the contributions of Sabu. Whether it's the early stuff, matches with a guy who ran by the name of the Tasmaniac, who would eventually go on to be Taz, the three-way dance with Shane Douglas and Terry Funk that was, the night the line was crossed, one of the greatest matches in wrestling history, in my personal humble opinion, all the way through, even things in WWE when they went to ECW One Night Stand against Rey Mysterio for the World Heavyweight Championship back in the day. The guy has done so much for this business. He's meant so much to this business, and his legacy is going to endure. Many people calling him the most innovative wrestler of his generation, doing things with tables and chairs and barbed wire and just things that nobody ever thought about before, and him being that innovator. And I remember watching, there was an ECW documentary, Forever Extreme, I believe it was called. It was actually directed by Jeremy Borash, who works for WWE now, and you can hear his voice on the Evolve episodes. And I think what was really interesting to me, they do a section on there where it says Sabu breaks his silence. And they do this whole thing with Sabu where he talks about, actually it was Sandman, I think, was talking about seeing him come off the ropes and land on tables and nobody be there, and his knees would go crashing through the table. And then Sabu reflecting on that and talking about how much it actually hurt him more to go through an empty table than if there was somebody on the table. And just all the stuff that he was willing to do for this business, to put his body through. I think it was Raven on that documentary that talked about him using his body as a wrecking machine, and he just did, and the scars all over him. Paul Heyman, known for always referencing, just look at his body and the scars and the remnants of all the wars that he's been in. I think one of the most graphic times ever in the ECW arena at one point when he's in a match with barbed wire where his bicep gets just sliced wide open by the barbed wire, and his arm is literally, it's like hanging on by a thread, and he's literally like, actually, I think it was in that same documentary, Forever Hardcore, where he says to Fonzie, his manager at the time, he says, give me some tape. And he's like, I don't have any tape. He goes, I know you don't have any tape. Find me some. And he went and he got some tape for him, some medical tape, so he could tape up his arm and continue the match. That's the kind of guy that Sabu was. He cared so much about the business. He never wanted to let the people down. Just such an incredible talent. Should have, and you know what? I think, I'm trying to remember who it was. One of the talents on that documentary said, I think, as a matter of fact, it was Raven, who said he should have made millions in this business, and it's a shame he didn't. And it's so true. For everything that he did, the love of this business, the industry, he should have been set for life. Instead, the last few years, think about what his body must have felt like these last several years. What I think is the most shocking thing for me, less than a month ago, just a few weeks ago, he wrestled his final match of his career, his retirement match. He was victorious in GCW over Joey Janela at Spring Break, WrestleMania week, and he still had everything. He still could go. He still had the talent, and it's just so hard. It's so hard to see. From his matches in Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling to ECW, going over to All Japan, the stuff he did with the original Sheik, his uncle, stuff with Rob Van Dam, you name it, anybody in ECW, he's had just incredible memories with Sandman and Tommy J, like all of them. And man, like it's sad to see someone go so young. 60, I don't care what anybody says, that's way too young to be losing someone of that caliber. 2006, Vengeance, when he faced John Cena. Think about that. This guy has been everywhere. So sad news today coming out about the passing of Sabu, and our well wishes and prayers go out to his family. It's been a tough couple of years for him. He lost his partner in life, the Super Genie, passed away a couple of years ago, and and now we've lost Sabu as well. The outpouring of love and respect and everything from the talent all over the world was just amazing from every direction. Taz putting out a very emotional video. Mick Foley putting out a brief thing saying he'll put out a longer post later, but I think the one that really struck me was one with Sami Zayn, and I saw MVP. Sami Zayn very reflective, very gracious, very thanking to Sabu for everything he ever did for him. And MVP talking about how when he was on the independent scene, how he's the guy who would go to bat for him and stick up for him, put him over with the different indie promoters to really help him get an opportunity, and how special he was to him. And it's just, to see the love and respect from the wrestling community is just a beautiful thing. It really is a brotherhood, and it should stay that way. That's why when I see things like the Javon Evans Ricochet nonsense all week on Twitter, it grinds my gears a little bit. This is a brotherhood. It's an industry where everybody needs to take care of each other. The tribalism has no place in this business. We need to see people supporting each other, supporting the product, supporting the industry, growing every company so talent have multiple options, multiple career paths. Everybody can earn good money and put on great shows and great matches for everybody. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode where we'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always out to Suno AI for generating our music and sound effects in our show. Today's podcast sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy with Sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to thegamecrafter.com and picking up your copy today. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college or university life, maybe you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking some time with us today. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Wrestling Podcast.